Green Lantern, issue 14, legacy number 550. Jeremy Adams writing with Fernando Persarin on the art. So, yeah, this picks up with Hal snooping around, getting various like artifacts that have been taken from heroes and villains that are on this what, carrier or whatever it is.
Yeah, they're on Gamora Island, but it is like this big, huge transport kind of ship.
Yeah, they're on a ship. Yeah. So what's funny is that there's 2 times in this issue where it gives you an editor's note saying, hey, read Absolute Power 7 to see how we got here with this character. It does that twice in this issue with 2 different characters, and I got annoyed. But you know what's so funny is that as I read that, I went, oh, it's a shame I read this first, but I guess I'll read that this week since it's tying in. And then I actually looked at what Absolute Power was out this week and realized that issue 3 was the one that came out that week we took off, because it was the only issue that was out that week. And I thought, oh, do I really want to go back and catch up with that now? Especially since I've already read, like, if someone told me before I read this that there was going to be multiple plot threads with like Carol and Alan Scott that were going to be brought up in Green Lantern, I might have done so. But because I already read this, I went, I don't want to go back and read that now. I'm good. Like I've
So I read it after I had read Green Lantern.
That's fair.
You're not missing much. There are some good elements that Jeremy Adams brings into it with the whole decision of Alan Scott to give himself up. Right? This Amazo ends up getting infected with some of the Starheart energy, and it starts giving the robot free will. So it does the.
Oh yeah, and to be fair, I think this issue does a good job of saying all that so that I didn't feel lost. Like, you know, Alan Scott says in his narration very quickly, and there's a couple of quick sentences, and you get the idea.
But it helps that Adams took the time. So you follow this Amazo robot. It goes offline when it absorbs the Starheart, because it almost like it gets overloaded. And when it comes back up rebooted, it starts asking itself questions, right? Like if it's going to do the command that Waller gave it or something else. And the command Waller gave it is in red, and its new one is in green, right? So it goes through this stuff. It comes back empty-handed, and Waller yells at it, essentially like it's an underling, right? Like, you had one job, you didn't even bring back, you know, the Green Lantern. You have the energy, but I need him. He's dangerous, right? So it ends up chasing them, chasing the Justice Society and Carol through all this different magic spaces. So it ends up getting to the Oblivion Bar. So in this, when you see all of the different things that show up like artifacts, it comes from that section. Till finally that Alan gives himself up, because the Amazo starts questioning what free will is, because he says that it says that there's like a second voice underneath that's making him question everything. And so Alan sees this as an opportunity to be like, hey, free will, I'm going to make a decision right now to come with you, but so everyone else can leave. And they make the deal. And then when it brings Alan Scott back, Waller gets upset because you didn't bring the entire Justice Society. So it makes this Amazo start questioning even her. Okay. So a lot of good stuff. Everything else that happens that here with Hal and everything else, that was the main crux that I really felt was missing to this issue. But the rest of the stuff with Carol and the Justice Society, all that other stuff, like, it's fine. It's a bunch of little character stuff, like Carol wondering who all these old people are, because you have some people that are old as her grandparents, but also these young ones like Stargirl, and it's almost you feel this is her first run in with the Justice Society. But yeah, so that's kind of all you were missing. But I mean, the fact that Adams wrote it kind of does feel like a half chapter to Green Lantern.
I mean, the Hal stuff feels like it follows on straight from the last issue of Green Lantern. It doesn't, so I don't think any Hal stuff was in that Absolute Power issue, was it?
Nothing. Let me. I have it open right here.
Because I'm pretty sure this is where he was left off at the end of Green Lantern last time.
I am checking. Oh, that's Green Lantern, and then it's not Task Force 7.
You don't have to check. I'm just saying, like, this feels like it follows on directly.
Yes, I'm just saying that because I feel like there was a little bit of Hal stuff, but not enough. You know, most of that was JSA and Carol.
Well, yeah,
So,
but that
yeah.
makes sense to me because otherwise, if you're just reading Green Lantern, like I ended up doing, then
Right.
it wouldn't make any sense. You'd start this issue and be like, "Wait, why is Hal now not where he was last time? Like, what?"
Right.
So they couldn't do anything with him.
No, so what I was confusing for Hal was the Steve Trevor. It just continues that part of the story, him infiltrating Gamora Island from the inside.
Oh yeah, that's the
So
backup. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so but that's actually there's no backup. That's concurrent to what was going on in that issue. So
Oh,
they kind of switch things up.
it's sprinkled in throughout, is what you're trying to say.
Yep.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so that was what I was confusing with the. I was like, was Hal in there? Because there was somebody running around Gamora, but no, it was Steve Trevor, not Hal. So yes, Hal picks up immediately.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean the Hal stuff in this is mostly comedy. It's just him like picking up various artifacts from, random villains, Javelin from Javelin, or just the Condiment King guns. So he's spraying mustard and ketchup at the guards, and that's basically it. But that's not to say that I didn't like this issue. I actually think this is a pretty solid tie-in because
Yeah.
the concept of an Amazo that's starting to question free will and Alan Scott kind of like poking that bear with the with the chess game and sort of just reminding him that he's got choices and he's named him Jadestone because yeah, sure, why not? Like that's interesting, in and of itself. I think. And then the Amazo going to like take on Hal because he's become unruly. Meanwhile, Carl is with the rest of the JSA and the Tower of Fate, and basically they're deciding, okay, what can we do? Is there still heroes to go out and save? Can we form some kind of a plan? And ultimately, they come to this conclusion that all of them are too recognizable because they're heroes, and that Waller's probably got good files in them all, so even their secret identities are probably burned as far as like what's going on right now is concerned. So they need a regular, normal human to go do something, and they basically just turn and look at Carol and like make eyes at her like, "Oh, you're volunteering because you're a normal human that isn't on a list." So off you go. So I mean, I like that as far as it was just Carol being around characters she wouldn't normally be around, and that was kind of fun. More than anything. Meanwhile, we go back to Tharis for a little bit. And this is actually the one complaint I had about the last issue, was that while I enjoyed most of the things that were in it, and I thought it was a pretty solid tie-in to the event, and I'd say the same about this, I think this is a solid tie-in to the event, it does feel more like a collection of different Green Lantern-related characters just tying into the event as opposed to a full story from start, beginning, middle and end. It doesn't feel like it has like an overall chapter feeling like a regular issue would. So it's not as good as Jeremy Adams' run has been. It feels a lot more like a collection of just different bits as opposed to a full story. But having said that, this idea that, because this Tharis bit with his council of all the shapeshifters who are pretending to be the other delegates, this is got nothing to do with the event, really. I mean, they kind of briefly mention Earth's going through something, but this is more about the ongoing Green Lantern story. And it's just seeding the idea that the other, what's his race called? I forget.
The Durlans.
Thank you, the Durlans. The other Durlans here, like, seem to be questioning, like, what they're doing and, like, pretending to be these others. Like, one of them is like, hey, can we just, like, mind wipe all of the delegates that are supposed to be here so they'll never know we were all pretending to be them and just sort of go about our business? And Tharis is like, no, we're going to take over the universe and we're going to take over Earth and we're going to do all this stuff. So it's seeding some discontent amongst his people. But he definitely comes across as a bit of a maniacal maniac, though, because he is like, oh, when all their chaos is over, we'll give Earth the same choice as every other planet. Obey or die. I thought the art on his face as he says that was particularly good.
Yes, he's perfectly maniacal on that one.
He looks deranged.
Yeah. And here, too, the council's like, we didn't do this to be murderers, though. Like, bro, you're getting lost in the thoughts here. Like, so it also shows that he's being corrupted as well by the amount of power. Because it seems like they had just this power to kind of take over, but maybe for the better, right? And now he's even going beyond that, and he's making them uncomfortable.
Yeah. So we go back to Hal, and he basically picks up what he thinks it's just a stick, but he's like, I hope this is belongs to certain someone. And it turns out it does, because he says abracadabra and blasts the Amazo. And it looks like he's dead, because it's left a big crater. Obviously he's not, but the thing here is that the Amazo robot's like, Hal Jordan's been eliminated, and any questions with the green text query, was I wrong, suggesting that he maybe feels guilt over the idea that he's killed Hal Jordan. So I do think that's an interesting concept, and we'll see how they play with it. But the end of the story, though, is that Hal actually got teleported with the wand to Themyscira, which is the new Resistance headquarters for the superheroes. The Trinity are there, and because he teleported a big bubble, he brought them a lot of the superhero and supervillain weapons that were nearby, which is good, because if you remember, everyone, they don't have their powers right now. Yeah. So, yeah. Which seems like an important little detail for, going forward in Absolute Power.
Seeing this now, because Flash is so outside of, seemingly all of this, it makes me wonder what Captain Cold's up to while Waller's doing this. Because I can't see him standing by and just letting her do things, right? Because Cold does have that sense of honor, and then just seeing all the devices, but, his Absolute Zero gun, that could be pretty handy. Yeah. So, what's he up to right now if Waller hasn't already got him?
Yeah, so there's one scene after this actually as well, where it's Carol being teleported back into one of the cities, which I get that they're going for her walking through the portal, but the way they've drawn it here, and the art's very good, let me make that clear, the art is very good in this issue, but it does kind of look like she's just missing a leg.
Kind of.
Like she's an amputee. That's what it looks like on that panel.
Yeah. They could have drawn more of a leg coming down, right?
I think just drawing the rest of it faintly, or maybe clearly seeing a bend in her leg to sort of indicate that the leg's bending backwards through the light would have been something. But I do enjoy the chemistry Carol has with these younger JSA characters, where they're saying, you just tap the little Ankh symbol and you'll come right back. What do you mean should?
Should, I like that. And Salem's like, it will. I bewitched it myself. And the other person who I'm not familiar with, I don't remember this character that often. He goes,
the patchwork looking character.
Are they related to Ragman? Because that would make sense.
I mean, that's what my mind went to, but I don't know for sure.
But he goes, isn't your power just cursing things? Yeah, same thing. So gives Carol a cursed item, which I think is hilarious.
I enjoyed the banter between these characters, and Carol's just kind of like being like bewildered by the whole thing. But again, this much like this happened last issue as well with the creation of this character. Well, I say creation. So her ex-fiance, again, much like the Tharos scene, this is just for advancing the ongoing Green Lantern story. So it is interesting how this is essential for the run, but also mostly a tie-in. Because one of the things I think we criticized last time is that it was a little bit weird. There was like just 2 or 3 pages in the middle of an issue that's mostly a tie-in that completely does this big thing where it takes her ex-fiance and turns him into the Grey Lantern. Which Sorrow is his.
Seems to be powered by Sorrow, right? Which is like an in-between type. It's kind of like fear, but also love. Like, it's very weird. But this gray, this is all new. So I like this.
I don't mind the concept. Like, I'm okay with it as a thing. But it is a bit weird to show, like, do just a couple of pages in that last issue of this happening to him, and then this issue just teasing it a little bit. But clearly Adams wanted to still continue his ongoing story a little bit during these tie-ins, and this is kind of what's come from it. So presumably he'll be going after Carol over the next issue or two, and that'll take us back into the main story. But I will say, like, I do think that this is a solid tie-in little arc for the event, which is working well because we're reading the event alongside it as they're coming out. I do wonder the eventual Green Lantern Volume 2 or 3 that this is all going to be in, how that's going to feel to just have these in here, and they're essential because they have some things like this where this is kind of important. The Grey Lantern's clearly going to be a thing in the next arc, but
this happened to him with Night Terrors as well, and Adam consistently just keeps chugging along, and you gotta give him credit for being like the most consistent writer at DC right now, for just keeping his story going, but also managing to balance whatever editorial needs of him. Because again, this was a very readable book. Like, you didn't need to go back and read the Task Force 7 like I did, but I'm glad that I did do it. And that takes some skill as well, right? That you can glean, that you can miss almost like a kind of half chapter, but still not lose anything in this issue.
I respect that he wants to play in the DC world and he wants to tie into what's going on. I mean, assuming it's even his choice at all. But you know, it does maybe become a problem if it happens too often, where there's no chance for his arcs to just breathe and be on their own. Although this is much better than the Night Terrors issues. The Night Terrors issues were just fluff. But to be fair, all of them were just fluff.
So that kind of Night Terrors in a nutshell.
Yeah. So, and there's a backup, which I did not read, I must say.
You and backups, guy.
I can't ever be bothered. I finished the story, and then I see Mark Guggenheim, and I'm like, screw that.
You saw Uncle Googie, and you're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
You did that meme of the kid disappearing with the peace sign.
I want to say I read whatever the last backup was, because it was someone more interesting.
Yeah, the last backup is about young Theros and him claiming his destiny, kill or be killed.
Maybe I didn't. I don't remember that. So whatever, go on.
So this one's called The Shadow Lanterns, and you get introduced to this character named Shint Deproba, and he's from he's like this insect looking guy. He's like a pincher, and that's where his ring kind of goes on to. Like a tail pincher, almost like a scorpion guy. And he says that he's a member of the Corps, which is weird because, it should have gone to somebody noble, the ring, and someone brave, but it didn't. It went to him. And it introduces this concept of shadow lanterns, that Theros isn't picking lanterns who are, they overcome great fear, right? That famous thing that we always hear. His rings are going out and picking people who are easy to be manipulated. And so he's taken a group of these lanterns and have made their own group of them that are deeply loyal to him because they were manipulated. And Deproba has figured this out, and he doesn't want to be a Green Lantern anymore, because once you start speaking out against Theros and start kind of thinking for yourself, you get put on these missions or you're probably not going to come back. You get a scene with Theros and Deproba where Theros is kind of talking him up and being like, you were chosen because you're special. And, yes, I wear this ring too, but it's basically ornamental. I can't wield the emotional spectrum like you. And so this makes Deproba feel terrible, and he tries to throw himself into a sun. So the ring, he doesn't have to be burdened by this anymore. But the ring's programming won't let him. So he ends up going back, trying to talk to these shadow lanterns, and none of them believe him. They're like, no, we were chosen. They've been manipulated by Theros. And they even have their own oath, which is, completely, it's within the same rhymes as the Green Lantern oath, but it's its own thing, and it ends with the army that does the will of its Lord Premier, right? So it's really hammering on the fact that Theros has taken the Green Lantern Corps as this, this intergalactic police force that's meant to, maintain order across the universe, to his own personal army. And then within this group, it's, his almost like not even special forces, but they're his extra special army. But they go onto a mission, and Deproba throws himself into it so much that he's a Shadow Lantern, but at the end of the day, he's a Green Lantern, and he sacrifices himself in battle, right? So his ring goes off, and it ends with him saying that, hopefully it finds somebody that's noble and brave and more worthy than me. And so it ends on this really melancholy note that he lived true to who he was. He knew he wasn't Green Lantern material. The art's really good. I don't know if you said who the art was. You just said it was Guggenheim on the story, but it's Derek Robertson, which didn't come as a surprise. Robertson's pretty decent. Plays with a lot of space kind of themes, a lot of purples in the color, and a lot of like big open space. And then when you hit the battle scenes, that big open space gets really not clustered, but there's a lot more going on. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed the backup. So yeah, Green Lantern's still hitting across the board for me.
All right, well, you're rating the book then.
8.5.
that's actually surprisingly high, to be honest. I'm going with a 7 because it's a tie-in issue. It's a pretty solid tie-in issue, but it is also a collection of small moments as opposed to a coherent full issue. Art is pretty good though. Having said that, and I like most of the scenes in the book. It's just kind of like a weird collection of scenes as opposed to a really fulfilling full chapter of the book. So 7 out of 10, still good, but definitely more flawed than Adam's run normally is. It doesn't give me pause though, because I know it's just 'cause it's a tie-in. Like I know as soon as he's back to his normal stuff, it'll be fine.